Welcome to the official channel of Sheikh Hamdan's fans, where we bring you the latest insights into the life and times of this remarkable leader and the intricate dynamics of the royal family. In a dimly lit room, the air was thick with anticipation. The silence was oppressive, weighing heavily on my chest and making it difficult to breathe. I stood by the window, gazing out at the twinkling city lights, my arms crossed and my mind racing. Behind me, a figure sat on the couch, their head in their hands, their posture a testament to the turmoil that churned within. I had rehearsed this moment countless times in my mind, scripting the words I would say and the tone I would use. But now, faced with the reality of the situation, my words felt heavier than I had anticipated. I began to speak, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm giving you one last chance." His head lifted slowly, his eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions, fear, hope, and regret all swirling together. His voice cracked as he spoke, his words laced with desperation. "I swear, I won't make the same mistake again." I turned to face him, my arms still wrapped tightly around myself. "You've said that before, but what sets this time apart?" He rose from the couch, his movements cautious, as if he feared that I might vanish into thin air if he approached too quickly. The space between us seemed to shrink, filled with the weight of unspoken words and unresolved tensions. The weight of his words settled heavily in the air, a somber acknowledgement that echoed through my very being. His voice was laced with a deep sense of longing, a yearning that seemed to bridge the gap between us. My emotions were in turmoil, a jumbled mix of pain, fear, and uncertainty. I desperately wanted to believe him, to trust that his words were more than just a fleeting promise. But trust was a delicate thing, and I knew that it couldn't be rebuilt with empty words alone. The memories of our past lingered, a painful reminder of the hurt and betrayal I'd endured. I felt a lump form in my throat as I spoke, my voice barely above a whisper. "You hurt me in ways that I never thought possible." His eyes locked onto mine, filled with a deep sense of remorse and regret. He took a step closer, his movements slow and deliberate. "I was blind to your worth," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I let my own doubts and fears consume me, and I pushed you away." I searched his face, seeking to understand the sincerity behind his words. But a lingering question remained, a question that hung precariously in the balance. His entire demeanor shifted, a subtle tension rippling through his body before he deliberately released it. His words hung in the air, a promise of redemption and a willingness to fight for what had been lost. "I'll fight for you," he said, his voice low and resolute. "I'll fight for us, for the love we once shared, and for the chance to rebuild what's been broken." I felt a lump form in my throat as I closed my eyes, taking a moment to truly absorb his words. The weight of my own fears and doubts threatened to overwhelm me, but I knew that I had to listen, to really hear him. The memories of our past still lingered, a painful reminder of the hurt and betrayal I'd endured. Letting him in again, letting myself hope again, felt like a daunting prospect, but I knew that love required vulnerability. I opened my eyes, meeting his gaze with a mix of trepidation and longing. The air was thick with unspoken words, and I knew that this was a turning point, a moment that would determine the course of our future. His eyes locked onto mine, filled with a deep sense of determination and a willingness to make things right. A single misstep, a fleeting moment of uncertainty, and I'd be gone for good. He nodded, his throat constricting as he swallowed hard, his eyes pleading for a second chance. "I won't squander it," he vowed, his voice barely above a whisper. For now, I'd let him try to make things right. The air between us was heavy, weighed down by the accumulation of unresolved issues. He reached for my hand, his touch tentative, his fingers barely brushing against mine as he waited for permission. I didn't pull away, but I didn't give in either. "I know I don't deserve another chance," he murmured, his voice laced with regret. "But I promise you, I won't take it for granted." I studied his face, the dark smudges under his eyes, the tension in his jaw, as if he was holding back a torrent of emotions. He looked worn, broken in a way I'd never seen before. "You say that now," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "But what happens when the going gets tough? What happens when your old habits resurface, when doubts creep in? Do you expect me to keep forgiving you?" He shook his head, desperation flashing in his eyes. "No, that's not what I want. I don't want you to have to forgive me again, because I don't want to make those mistakes again." The words caught in my throat, my heart racing with a mix of emotions. "Why now?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "What makes this time different?" He took a deep breath, his hand rubbing over his face as if trying to wipe away the weight of his emotions. "Losing you was the only thing that ever truly terrified me," he confessed, his voice cracking with vulnerability. The admission struck a chord deep within me, making my chest constrict with emotion. He continued, his voice raw and honest. "I can live with failing at everything else," he said. "I can live with disappointments, with regrets. But I couldn't live without you. I don't want to. And if you tell me right now that you don't believe in me anymore, that there's nothing left between us, then I'll walk away." His words hung in the air, a poignant reminder of the fragility of our relationship and the depth of his emotions. His voice cracked with emotion as he spoke, his words a heartfelt appeal for redemption. "If there's even a glimmer of hope left in you," he said, his eyes pleading for a second chance, "I'll dedicate my life to proving that I'm worthy of it." My eyes stung with unshed tears, but I refused to let them fall. "You can't just say the right thing and expect me to forgive you," I said, my voice laced with skepticism. "I need to see real change, not just empty promises." He nodded solemnly, his expression a mask of determination. For once, he wasn't trying to justify his actions or shift the blame. He simply acknowledged the hurt he'd caused and the work he needed to do to regain my trust. "I know," he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken emotions, a poignant reminder of the fragility of our relationship. He stood before me, his emotions laid bare, as he waited for my response. No defenses, no justifications, just a quiet, raw honesty. I took a deep breath, my voice steady and firm. "One chance," I said, my words echoing, "If you fail, if you hurt me again, that's it. No second chances, no apologies. You're gone for good." His eyes met mine, unwavering and sincere. "I understand," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I studied his face, searching for any sign of doubt or hesitation. But all I saw was a deep resolve, a determination that seemed to burn within him. And in that moment, a small part of me began to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could be different this time. The air was thick with anticipation as he stood before me, his emotions exposed and vulnerable. I could see the sincerity in his eyes, the genuine remorse for his past mistakes. My voice was calm and measured as I spoke the words that would decide our fate. "One chance," I said, my tone firm but not unkind. "If you blow it, if you hurt me again, there's no going back. No second chances, no forgiveness. You'll be walking out the door for good." His gaze met mine, steady and unwavering. "I understand," he said, his voice low and husky with emotion. I searched his face, looking for any sign of uncertainty or doubt. But what I saw was a deep determination, a resolve to make things right. And in that moment, I felt a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. The atmosphere was charged with nostalgia as he entered the room, his presence stirring up a multitude of dormant feelings. I had spent months trying to suppress the memories of our past, but the moment he walked in, it was as if time had stood still. He paused, taking in the familiar surroundings, his gaze lingering on the vacant spaces where his belongings once resided. A soft whisper escaped his lips, a gentle admission of longing. "I've missed this," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "I've missed you." A pang of emotion resonated within me, but I refused to let my feelings overwhelm me. "Nostalgia isn't enough," I said, my voice steady and measured. He winced, acknowledging my words with a nod. "I understand, but the ache of missing you now, it's overwhelming." I turned away, biting my lip to contain the emotions that threatened to surface. "Words are cheap," I said, my voice laced with skepticism. "If you're truly committed to this, you need to demonstrate it." His jaw clenched with determination. "Then guide me," he said, his eyes locked on mine. I studied him, my heart racing with anticipation. The real question was, how could I possibly trust him again? For now, I didn't have an answer. "I'm not sure," I admitted. He nodded, as if he expected my response. "Then I'll wait until you're ready," he said, his voice infused with sincerity. The words sent a shiver down my spine. I yearned to believe him, to let my defenses down and allow him back into my life. But could I? We'll take this one step at a time, I said, my voice calm and deliberate. No rushing, no pressure. If you're genuine in your intentions, you'll need to prove it. His eyes softened, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken emotions, but for now, it was enough. He lingered, his eyes fixed on me, as if waiting for a sign that I was ready to take the next step. I wasn't sure if I was prepared to face him, to confront the emotions that had been simmering beneath the surface. But the fact that he was here, standing in front of me, trying to make amends, meant something. I turned away, seeking refuge in the kitchen, where I could gather my thoughts and calm my racing heart. My hands trembled slightly as I poured myself a glass of water, the sound of the liquid flowing into the glass a soothing distraction from the tension that filled the air. He remained frozen in place, his presence dominating the room, making it impossible to ignore him. "You can sit down," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, as if unsure of his welcome, before slowly sinking onto the couch, the same one where we had shared countless nights, our bodies entwined, our whispers and promises filling the air. The air was thick with tension as he broke the silence. "Is this awkward for you?" he asked, his voice laced with a mix of emotions. I turned to face him, my back against the counter, my eyes locked on his. "Of course, it's awkward," I replied, my voice tinged with a hint of frustration. "You can't just reappear in someone's life and expect everything to feel normal." He exhaled, running a hand through his hair, his eyes never leaving mine. "I know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. A beat of silence stretched between us, and then he looked up at me, his eyes searching for mine. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but I need you to know that I'm not here to waste this chance." I swallowed hard, my fingers tightening around the glass. "Then tell me why you left," I said, my voice firm but controlled. His whole body tensed, as if he had been expecting this question but still wasn't ready for it. "I was scared," he admitted, his voice laced with vulnerability. "I was scared of how much I felt for you, of how deep I was in before I even realized it." A wry smile spread across my face. "Easier for who?" I asked, my voice tinged with sarcasm. "Because it sure as hell wasn't easy for me." He flinched, his eyes dropping, and then he looked up at me, his gaze filled with regret. "I was selfish," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I ran when I should have stayed, and I regretted it every single day." I studied him, searching for the lie, for the hesitation, but all I saw was sincerity and pain. I sighed, setting my glass down on the counter. "You can't just regret something and expect that to be enough," I said, my voice firm but controlled. "Words aren't enough, not anymore." He nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "I know," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "That's why I'm here, to show you, if you let me." I wanted to believe him, to believe that people could change, that mistakes could be fixed. But my heart was still weary, still bruised, so I chose my words carefully. "One chance," I said, my voice steady. "That's all I'm giving you. And if you break it, if you break me again." My voice wavered, but I steadied myself. "Then we're done, forever." His gaze didn't falter, his eyes filled with determination. "I won't waste it," he said, his voice firm. "I swear." I nodded slowly, my eyes never leaving his. "Then prove it," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. A determined look crossed his face, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something I thought I'd never see again in his eyes: conviction. The air was heavy with anticipation, as if the fate of our relationship hung precariously